Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. First half of the show, we had head coach Todd Bowles. Now I am so excited to be joined by defensive line coach Charlie Strong. Coach, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Casey. Thank you for having me on.
And you got a good one to come on for, man. I mean, what a game that was. What a start to the season this is. It's been unbelievable as a fan and everybody to watch this. Tied for the best six-game start in franchise history. To have this kind of record, with all the injuries, all the last-minute wins, all of the chaos so far this season. What is this like? What does it feel like in the locker room, in the coaches' meetings, and just the overall vibe of this team at this point?
Well, I think that when you look at our team right now, it carries the personality of our head coach. And so you look at the wins where we came back late in the fourth quarter and won the games. It's because they don't crack. You know, it's just like we just continue to play. And the head coach doesn't. That's the way he carries himself. And you see his personality, and you just know at some point someone's going to make a play. You know, we may be down now, and I think now just because of the way our offense is playing, the way Baker is playing, that you can always count. You hate for that to happen because you said, okay, every week we're relying on Baker to come and make a play, and at some point the defense has to step up and stop people. But just the personality of the head football coach, where it nothing bothers him, and he's going to continue to coach, and and that's the way the team has carried on that personality.
I like that. And when you got here, what did you notice about the culture of this team?
Oh, it was unbelievable culture, and you just look at the players and just how they mingle together with the coaches and even with themselves, and you just know that a real culture has been built because when you look at your team, you always say, you know, like, who's going to be a problem for us, and we don't have that at all.
I love that. And you mentioned Baker, which it has been a blast for all of us to watch him. I imagine it's the same for you, and nice to be having him on your team and not the opposing. I wonder if you relate sometimes to the defense of watching when they almost have him down for that sack on 3rd and 14, and then he comes out of it. It's just like, good grief, like what is this? What does it take to stop this guy? And what has watching him been like, and even having so much of your experience on defenses to explain why Baker's having the kind of success he has and how hard he is to stop and get down in the pocket?
Well, I had it firsthand because when I was at Texas, Baker was at Oklahoma. And so when we played against every year. So one year he beat me. The next year I think I beat him, or vice versa. But he was a starting quarterback the one year that we beat them. Then the following year he came back and beat us. But just to see him, how he's developed, and just over the years where he went from college to the NFL, and then the teams that he was with, and now to come here and have the success that he's having, I'm so happy for him because he's put so much into it. And when your team feels like you can always count on someone, then it says a lot about them. And that's what has happened with Baker, because we depend on them so much. And like I said, at some point the defense is going to have to step up and make a play, but just to see it happen, it's been fun to watch.
And 6 sacks on the day for the defense. What an explosion in that area. What an incredible stat line, and huge part of the game, what you guys were able to do on that side. I know some came from your group, some from outside linebackers, some from corners, which I feel like that's such a Todd Bowles defense kind of day right there. So tell me why this game, the sacks were there, what you guys can take from that to carry on to future games, because I know maybe not every game is 6 sacks, even though you'd love for it to be. So what does it look like in this game and the ones moving forward?
Well, you look at the last game, I don't know if we had any sacks. And it's always like, and the guys understand, and I think Vita says it best. He always said, Coach, they come in bunches. They come in bunches. We'll get some, and then we won't get some. We'll get some. But to have 6 against a really good offensive team like San Fran is really good. And it started off early where I think maybe the 5th play of the game we were able to get a sack where Vita and Elijah both got a half a sack. But it's when you are able to put pressure on the quarterback and get the ball out of his hands and then go and sack him, and like you said, it came from the defensive line, the outside linebackers, the corner. Dean comes on the sack and gets the sack and a big sack where he causes a fumble. We don't get the fumble, but it's a strip fumble. But it happens for us, and it's good because now you get the offense behind the chains and you're able to get off the field on defense.
That's a very big deal. We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. So Vita, I mean, not only did he get that half sack, but it just felt like he was influencing the pass game, even on ones where he's not necessarily getting things that are going to show up in the stat box, like helping other guys end up getting their sacks. He just seemed like he was having a heck of a game in that area. So what were the biggest ways you saw him affecting the pass game and what he did well that maybe we don't even always notice or appreciate?
Well, when you watch him, if you don't double Vita, you're going to have a problem with him. And then they try to single him, and he's not going to, he's pushing the pocket, and he's knocking people back, and that's where he's really effective. And then sometimes he's able to knock him back and then get his hand on the quarterback or even just effective throw, make the quarterback have to move his feet. And that's where he did a good job for us last night because he was able to just push the pocket and I said he has been disruptive the whole day, and it was really good. And then they couldn't run the ball, so now when they tried to throw the ball, he was disruptive. He disrupted in the run game, so had a really good day.
Yeah, tell me about the run game overall, what you guys thought of how the D-line handled the run game, especially when you're facing a guy like Christian McCaffrey where he can do a lot of things, both run and pass game, but run game overall and then specifically how you guys were able to limit Christian a bit.
Well, the key thing when you go into a game, you try to make a team one-dimensional. So whatever their strength is, and we don't want them to get the run game going because if you allow a team to get the run game going, now they're able to throw the ball and run the ball, and they're able to stay balanced, and you want to make sure that you create it where they're not going to be a balanced offense for that day. So now we went into it knowing that how good of a player McCaffrey was and said there's no way we know he's going to get his touches. We know he's going to make some plays, but we cannot allow them to run the football against us.
I know C.J. Brewer also ended up with a half a sack. This is a guy who doesn't get the notoriety, the attention of a lot of the main starters, has been on the practice squad at times, bounced around, but seems like he's a guy that whenever his number is called, does what's asked of him.
So dependable. And he's one of those guys that he knows what everyone on the defensive front is doing. And he knows all the calls. And he's sitting there trying to tell everybody. And sometimes I tell him, hey, you get lined up and quit worrying about them, okay?
You
be you. You do your job. They will get their job taken care of. Well, Coach, I want to make sure he knows what he's doing. I'm fine with that.
But let's make
my
job.
Yeah. Let him do. He knows what he's doing. You don't have to tell him every time.
That's great.
But he is. But he's so dependable, and you know that he's going to give you everything he's got.
I know we saw Yaya get a couple sacks. Great to see him have a bit of a breakout game. Hassan got a half a sack. What did you notice about the outside linebackers and just the ways that I know you guys work so closely with them and the way that you guys help each other out and influence each other?
Well, we work together every day, and it's like when we go with our pass game, we're together and we're working games. And just to see Yaya and Hassan come out and get the sacks that they got was really good. And it was good for Yaya because he's been so close, week in and week out, and he just never been able to finish it. And to see him finish it was really good, and I was just so happy for him.
I know also having Levante behind your line, not a terrible person to know you got back there. Tell me what it's been like for you to come in and watch what it's like to have him back there and the way he influences all of your guys and just for you what you knew about him before you even got here as compared to watching him every single day.
Well, he's a true leader, and he is the leader of our defense. And you look at the play he made in the Seattle game, you get into the game, and there's some games you get into and you're like, God almighty, we got to stop them. We got to get a stop here. And then Seattle gets the ball back, and then they're driving, and you're like, we can't let them, because when they get in the field goal range and they kick a field goal, they're going to try to have a last-second field goal and go win the game. And then he comes up with a big interception. Devontae ball hits one of our guys, hits Logan's helmet, and he's able to intercept it. And now all of a sudden we end up kicking a field goal to go win the game. But I had a chance to see him in high school because I recruited him out of high school, and he ended up going to Nebraska, went to junior college to Nebraska, but him and Teddy and that whole group of guys coming out of Northwest.
That high school, man, jeez.
That high school just produces so many good players. But just to see his leadership now and how he is, and he accepts that role and he takes on that role, and which is really good because the players respect him so much.
Yeah, you can tell that for sure. And also, I know you are busy watching running backs as you watch film, preparing for things. So watching the way that Rashad has stepped in when Bucky's been out, and then just having the two of them when they're both healthy, how challenging that is for defenses to take on.
Well, when you have that pair, it's really tough because they give you look at Uno, and that's what I call him, Uno Rashad. He is a power runner and has enough speed to just run through defenders. And there's Bucky with his size. He's quick enough where he can outrun you and then or make a move on you and make you fall on your face. But to have that 1-2 punch is really good. But then now that Bucky was out, and to watch him to watch Rashad, just go watch him run the ball was really good. And it was just fun watching him because you want to see him. You say at some point you just want to see him handle it by himself, and that's what he was able to do.
Yeah, stepped up in a big way for sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. So I want to dive into Vita a little bit more here. Tell me what you knew about him before coming in, and then what you've learned since being here about who he is on and off the field.
Well, I had a chance because I live here in Tampa just to see him. And just to see the games, did not really know him, just knew, he went to Washington, came here as a first-round pick, and then to watch, each and every game. And the thing, he was so young when he came in because he had Sue and he had enough guys around him. So he was able to learn from that group of guys, and now he's the older guy in the room. And I tell him, I said, you do understand you're the older guy in the room.
You're the vet now.
You're the vet. You don't have to listen to these young guys.
I'm sure he enjoyed that.
But he's one of those guys, he doesn't say much. He just let his work speak for itself. And he's not a rah-rah guy. He'll say something to one of the guys to give them advice. Hey, this is what you need to do. But it's amazing how he goes about his work, and he works. And then when it's time to go play, he shows up to go play. And it's like every week he shows up to go play. And it's always been fun because when you have a guy like that, it's easy to coach a guy like that. It's those guys where you feel like you had to just drive. Hey, get ready. And even though they are professionals, you still have to do that. But with him, you don't.
Yeah. And where are the things that you've seen that he's grown in the most, but then also what you're still working on with him moving forward of where – are we at Vita's ceiling, or are there ways that, man, he can even still take another little step as incredible as he is?
Oh, I still think he's got something left in him where he can take that next step. And because if you watch him, his game is still like there's areas that he can improve on. And he's willing to improve on it. Like he's not one of those guys that feel like, hey, this is it for me. And because you look at him and you still like, God, he's still got so many more years left in him.
Yeah, even if this was it, that's incredible. Like, he's amazing.
It's because they're like, man, you still got a lot left in you. And I think that, he has a daughter now, and I think that has really helped him with his family and being the family man that he is, and then coming to work each and every day. You have seen him just really grow it and just taking that next step.
That's cool. And I think that the number of snaps he plays is one of the most underrated things about him. Explain to people who are not the defensive line experts you are, how unheard of that is, and also then therefore how important that is to the defense that he can be out there as much as he is.
You would think someone with that size, you say someone with that size, or they're not going to be able to play this many snaps. In each game, each week, he played more snaps than any defensive lineman I have.
It's crazy.
Like yesterday, I think it was maybe 72 snaps we played on defense. He played 52 snaps of the 72. So no one else is playing those type of numbers. And that's every week that he's like that. Because if he is healthy, he's going in the game and he'll tell you, Coach, hey, I'm going to come out this play, but I'm back the next play. Hey, or Coach, third down, I'm coming back in the game. But and I tell him, listen, we're going to go as you go, and that's how we're going to play as you play. So you're the one who set the standard here. You're the one who everyone's watching. And he don't mind it. Like, he accepts that. And that's why he's able to play the number of plays he plays, because he don't want to be out. He don't want anyone to ever say, well, Vita's not in. And they won't say that, but he doesn't want that said about him.
And I know losing Kalijah had to be pretty brutal on the line for the season. And what were the things that he was doing best prior to getting hurt, and just how this season was looking for him now that he's had a couple years under his belt?
Well, I felt like just coming into the season like he had one of his best camps. And he's explosive. He's a guy that learns a game, studies a game, and always telling the other guys, hey, man, you line up on this guy. This is what this guy like to do. And I give it to him. Like, he goes down and he talks about each lineman that we're going to face, and every offensive lineman that we're going to face. But he was doing an unbelievable job, and him and Vita plays off of one another. You know, Vita's a strong, powerful guy inside, knock people back, and then Kalijah comes with the quickness and the speed where they have to chase him. But you know, losing him has hurt us. But we've had, you know, some guys that step up. But it's just he's still around. And he still comes in our meetings, and he still talks to guys. He still watches film where everybody on the sideline, he's talking. When they come off the field, he's telling them what he sees. But it's amazing just to have him around and how himself has continued to see the game.
We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. Tell me about the guys that have stepped up in his absence, and the way that has affected the whole line, the way you guys try to use them, and your job overall of trying to replace Kalijah when there isn't another Kalijah on the roster. How have you guys tried to use some of those other guys in the ways they've stepped up?
Right, and I think that the guys understand that. Like, you know, we're not going to replace him because he is a different guy, you know. And so, like, you take a guy like Gaines. Gaines has, you know, what his skill set is. Like, you know, he's a guy who's been around a while. He understands the game, and he sees a game where he studies the game, and he's always looking for just, hey, I could use this, you know, this tidbit here. I could take this nugget, and this is how I'm going to work this guy. But he's been around. He's a vet. And then you take a rookie now like Elijah Roberts, who is so talented, who's got a big ceiling ahead of him. And once he learns, he understands the game, but he really doesn't understand it. And once he does, he's going to become a really good player. And Kalijah is kind of mentoring him, like he's taking him under his wing. And then we talked about C.J. Brewer, a guy that has been around, who has played some, that has made plays. And even with Logan, I think that what Logan does is he's going to give you everything he's got every play. And he's going to play like that every play. He's going to give you everything he has. And just to watch how, like, all those guys knowing that they have to step up now because we have lost Kalijah. So now we have to step up. Now we have to play within ourselves, and we know what our ability and our skill set is. We can't be him, but we can improve our game.
I know that last year, I think George Edwards told me on one of these shows that Logan Hall was one of the most underrated guys on our defense for what he does for us. Is that still the case? And just overall, how are you guys working to use him and the things that he can add that maybe we don't always see or end up on the stat sheet? Well,
Logan, he doesn't say anything. And then so you have Vita and you have Kalijah, and it is like he's almost like the forgotten one, just sitting over here by himself, and who is a starter. Yeah. But you watch him play, you're like, he's around the ball, you know, he's making plays. And I think that with him, he has accepted that, okay, I just got to do my job. I can't worry about anything else because I know Vita's a man, I know Kalijah's a man, but I just have to do my job. And he's kind of one of those guys. He isn't lost, but he's someone that does his job, does it well, and, you know, week in and week out, you know you can always depend on him.
And then I know Desmond Watson, we were able to bring back on the practice squad. What does having a guy like him around help with it at practice, and the ways you guys try to use him as a practice squad guy, and just kind of his potential with the way he is such a unique player?
He's got size. He has everything you want, you know, and his issue is that you would like to get him in a place where we can bring him along more than what we're doing right now. but he's at practice, he's on the scout team, he's working, and he's getting his work in, and he understands now. You don't get many opportunities on this level, and when you get that opportunity, you have to take advantage of it because someone is always looking to take your job. So you have to when you get given a chance, you have to step up, and I think he's beginning to realize that now.
I love it. And also, I wanted to ask your thoughts on watching our offensive line this season and what all they've had to deal with and go through. That as someone who clearly scouts and looks at offensive lines all the time, to see what they've been able to accomplish with 1 million different combinations of people, even in the game yesterday, that you're having Haggard go out and Klein step in. I mean, it's just been unbelievable. What's it been like to watch how they've handled it and just how surprised you would have been as a defensive line coach going against a group like that they've been able to manage it?
I tell Carbs every day, I say, Carbs, it's amazing the job you're doing with that line. Because if you saw us during OTAs and what we had with our offensive line, it was like, it's Tristan. You had all these guys. Luke, you had them all lined up. Barton, but at Bresson, you had them lined up. Cody, and now you have the injuries that we've had. And so, at one time there was 3 starters down. And you had Barton and you had Birch, Bredesen, who were your guys. And now, and each week, it's just like we're retooling it. Okay, now these are the starting 5. But it's been amazing how those guys have been able to work together and work off one another and not use it as an excuse. A lot of times you can sit back and use an excuse and say, well, we don't have our offensive line. And that's the glue. The offensive and defensive line are the ones that set the tone for the whole game. But we've been able to work through it, like a Klein has stepped up. Those guys are all stepping up and they're playing and they're playing well.
All right, we're going to take one more break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. This is Buccaneers Radio. It's time for our final segment here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. So since you are new here this year, wanted to help our fans get to know you a little bit. And your football history of positions and roles and everything is unbelievable. I was looking at the fact that you've coached outside linebackers, wide receivers, defensive ends in line, assistant head coach and defensive coordinator, inside linebackers. Oh my gosh. At this point, you've coached dang near everything. Tell me how you've been able to be at a position to coach so many different roles and even position groups and how that's sort of helped form the coach you are at this point.
You're right, because I started off as a graduate assistant on defense, and I was in the secondary at that time. Yeah. And so then I go from the secondary, and then I take a job as a wide receiver coach. And I coach
such a logical jump, obviously.
Yes, yeah. I'll go from secondary to wide receivers, and then I come back and I start coaching outside linebackers. But I just felt like that if you want to be a head coach or coordinator, you're going to have to know every position, and you should coach every position because that only helps you out, and it makes you more aware of what's happening with each position. And you can help your position coach. Like if there's something is going on and a guy's coaching a different position and you probably see it from a different angle, you can say, hey, this is what I've tried before and this is what I've used. But it has helped me. It helped me tremendously along the way in my career.
And how about coaching a lot of college and then also now pro? What are the ways that those are similar, different, and the ways that having a lot of college experience influence the way you relate to the guys?
It all comes back just developing young men. And so even on the collegiate level or the professional level, because a lot of times I think that, when you get them in college, they're so young. And so they have no idea, but they think they do, and they have no idea. And you're sitting there trying to groom them and get them ready. And you always tell them, if your goal is to play at the next level, and all of you think you're professional players, then just listen, and then you can get there. And then once you get to this level, people always think, well, this guy he's a pro and he knows it, but they're still learning. And the guys that have the long careers in the NFL are guys that have taken their game and they've taken it to another level where they study the game, they understand the game, and the game doesn't stop when they go home. When they leave here, they go home and they still are studying. But it's all about just watching them develop and grow.
And then how impressed have you been at how ready our rookies have been, knowing that, of watching your experience in college? And I think right now we lead the league this year and last year in rookie receiving touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we've just had so many players at every position group come in as rookies and be so ready. What have you seen about how we're able to do that and find that, and just the roles they've already been able to play this year, especially with injuries, the importance of those rookies?
I think our scouting department do a great job of going to those schools where you have a chance, where you take you knowing that you want to draft one of their players, and then they get all the information on them, knowing that when we get them here, they're going to be ready to go play. You take a guy like Mac, even yesterday with Johnson, the way he played. But it's always like they knowing who is ready, and when they get into our system and our culture, then it makes them even more ready, because we're going to get them ready to go play with the coaches that we have.
We're talking to defensive line coach Charlie Strong. You were familiar largely because of how much, especially in college, you had done with so many people on this team before you even got here. That's just so crazy how many different paths you crossed with. First, I'd love to hear about, of course, we were talking about in the commercial break, you being at UT, and a certain wide receiver for the Bucs was rather prolific at A&M at one point. Tell me what you remember about Mike Evans.
Well, I told Mike, I said, and he said, "Yeah, Coach, you were at UT when he's at Texas A&M." Now, when I got there, we had stopped playing A&M, but you still, both of those are the two lead schools in the state, so you're going to know a lot about them.
And still the rivalry is
still the rivalry
bitter.
and we didn't get to play him, but it was just just watching him and seeing how well you think about what he's done after he leaves college to come. It's unbelievable what he's done, and you don't see. I don't think it's ever been done with the number of years that he's been here, and to have the 1,000-yard receiving.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It is unbelievable to see that. And he's a guy, when you watch him, I have just had a chance, now that I'm here, just watching him and how he carries himself, and a guy that, he is still wanting to learn, and he helps the young guys, and he's always coaching them. And sometimes you can get guys like that who think they know it all and they don't want to listen. But he's nothing like that. Has a quiet, just a quiet confidence about him. And you just know when the lights come on, here he goes, and he's ready to go play.
So now we got Monday Night Football again. Feels like we just did this. And I imagine Monday Night Football is kind of like the nightmare for coaches in so many ways. On this side of it, it's kind of nice. You get that extra day, but then that means you got to start working ahead, right? And so what are the ways that you've learned to try to cope with the Monday Night Football, and how much does it end up affecting you as a coach, and then the way you try to get your guys ready on both ends of it?
Well, you do get an extra day of preparation, which is good for the coaches. Mm-hmm. But after the game, you got to get ready the next week for the next opponent. So then you lose that day.
Yep.
And when you have a good opponent like Detroit, you don't know if you want to look ahead to the next opponent.
Maybe we don't spend any time doing that.
You don't know if you want to look ahead because you know how big this game is. But just to see just the whole preparation in the way that Coach Bowles has done with getting our guys ready to go play, and it's just been amazing to watch. And how our players themselves, you have an older group when they themselves has taken it upon them to where they're sitting there saying, "Hey, this is what we got to get done. We understand what we got to get done. It's how we got to come to work every day." And you're watching that happen with them.
I know we're recording this a little early in the week, but what have you already seen or know about, especially Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and what those two guys are going to be like to face?
Well, I went to Alabama when Gibbs, he's a Georgia Tech.
Of course, everybody.
Then he came to Alabama. It was like they have 3 or 4 players from Alabama on that team at Detroit. But you look at Gibbs, who's so fast and he's so quick and explosive, and he's every time he touches the ball, he can take it the distance each play. He's one of those guys that you say, "There's a home run," he's a home run hitter. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Montgomery, who's strong and who's powerful, like our 1-2 punch. Bucky may not have the speed that Gibbs has, but he's a guy who can take it the distance, and he's a guy who's quick enough. And then you look at Montgomery, who's so powerful, run behind his pads, and those are a great 1-2 punch right there. But you still have to contend with the receivers that he had too. You know?
Yeah, just a few things to be watching out for.
Yes.
Yeah, and how, Jared Goff, tell me just kind of the things of game planning for a guy like him, what that looks like.
Well, let me tell you this. You got another story.
I love it, of course.
When I was at Texas, Goff was at Cal. So we played them. So they'd come to we at Austin, and we were behind. So we tied the game up. So I'm walking, and so we send the extra point team out on the field to kick the field. You know, we can tie the game. Mm-hmm. And so I'm walking away from them. So they're behind me. The goalpost is behind me. So I'm walking toward our defensive coordinator. So I'm saying to him, hey, Vance, look, we got to get ready because we can't let Goff beat us. So we got to get ready because we're going to go into overtime. And he says, hey, you don't have to worry about that. We just missed the extra point. And I turned. And we missed the extra point. And I just felt so bad for our field goal kicker.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. I sat
But you
there
were
with
not
him.
excited about having to go against Goff.
No, I sat there with him. I sat there with a field goal kicker all day. And he's like, I'm sorry. Listen, it happens.
It happens.
Okay? It happens.
Okay.
But Goff, you know, he's a guy that does a good job of running the offense, can throw the deep ball, does a really good job of spacing the ball out, finding the open receivers, and moving the ball. You look at the points that they're scoring. They score a lot of points, and they can run and pass.
Yep, got your work cut out for you. At least you got that extra day.
It does. An extra day helps, but our work is cut out for us.
Yeah, work cut out for you. I love it. Well, Coach, thank you so much for spending time with us. We appreciate it, and congrats on that win yesterday.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on.
All right, that's going to do it for us on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by AdventHealth. This is Buccaneers Radio.